The second assignment from this week is as a surprise, because in class it was an animated GIF. So we just wanted to have a little bit of fun. So in order to make an animated GIF, we want it to be not too big. We want it to be square. I'm actually going to make mine 400 by 400 just so we can see it on here easily. You're probably better off making it more like 1 by 1 or 2 by 200. Let's see, animated GIF. That's what we want. So we're going to set it up like that, just something square. And the way this works is actually, nope, just kidding. We're going to set it up as layers first, and those will get translated into frames. That's the best way to get Photoshop to think about this. So we're going to grab the text tool here. Do something simple. We're going to do a countdown, right? So the number 1, and that is not big enough at all. Maybe that is. All right. So gonna get the first number up there in the right size, and then what you can do is you can duplicate the layer and then double click on it and replace the 1 with a 2, and then go on like that through any number of numbers that you want. I just realized I'm going backwards, but that's okay. And the reason we do that is because they'll all be in the same place, they'll all be the same size. Whoops. And life will just be easier. So I'm going through. I can't really see what they look like because they're all, you know, on top of each other. That's okay. 5. I can tell what they are because the layer renames itself after your text, which is very nice of Photoshop. Now, a couple other things we want to clean up before we deal with this. One thing is that we're going to get rid of this background layer, because it's going to confuse the issue once we move this all to frames. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reverse these. That's what I meant by I did it backwards accidentally. So Photoshop is reading them from the bottom up. So if I want to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then I need to start, consider this the first frame. All right, so everything's where I want it. Window, timeline, which brings up a whole other timeline. Now, Photoshop is, let's just say that time is not a dimension Photoshop understands very well, right? This is not for animation, right? This is not for drawing animation. It's not for cutout animation. It's not really designed for that, which is too bad because it has nice brushes. But when you first open this up on your computer, it'll say this, create video timeline. You could do that if you want to import video for rotoscoping. So if you have something that already has its timing, you've shot something live action, and you want to draw over it, this is your program. This is good for that. However, if you want to do an animated GIF or something like that, we need create frame animation. So I select it from that little drop box and I click the button, and it does this. You have to kind of tell it what to do after that. So this timeline has a menu all the way over to the side here, same as everywhere else. And if I click on it, there is make frames from layers. Now you can see why I got rid of that one background layer. I would have just made it a new frame. What is technically happening is that on frame 5, this layer is, visible. On frame 4, this layer is visible. These two panels talk to each other. And it can get a little bit tricky if you're trying to look at something else over here and you're forgetting to change where you are over here. So be aware of that. The other thing is that right now, none of these exist in any sort of time. They all say 0 seconds, which means they're just going to flip through as fast as possible. If I shift select all of them and click where that number is, I can put them to 0.5, and then I can watch it. Yay! I want the 4 to be over further. I have to select it like in the timeline and then move it over. There we go. Let's try again. There you go. So that's how you can get some animation in Photoshop. This is, again, meant for chunky, clunky, basic animation. Now, what if I wanted to add a new frame? Well, I go over to the timeline. There's a lot of different settings. On by default on a lot of computers is new layers visible in all frames. So if I have that selected and I make a new layer to say give it a background color, you can see what it did down here, right? All of them were there. So that's often selected by default. If you don't want that to happen, if you say you want to add something afterwards, I want to add a new frame afterwards, I have to turn that off. So I turn off new layers visible to all frames. I don't want that. The other thing is create new layer for each new frame. So when I do that, it means I can go over here to my timeline settings, and again, little page with a corner turn means make a new thing. And unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to make, can I make a new frame up here? Yeah. This menu says make a new frame, and you're like, yay, it's going to be a new frame. No, it's not. It's going to create duplicate of this frame. So I got to kind of create it and then like turn that off on there. It'll still be on here, but on this last frame, frame 6, I don't want that to be there. And then I have to go find the last image that I want, which is somewhere in my downloads. So if I'm going to add something, I can still open stuff up in a Photoshop. Oh dear. I don't know where that is. One moment. I found it. This is a case of do as I say, not as I do. Be better organized than I am. There we go. So it brings it in like this. Obviously, it brings it in as a new thing. So I'm going to drag it over here. Put it over here. Oh, wow. That's the exact size. Yes. I can get rid of this extra piece right here. There we go. And I can tell it to be on for a little bit longer. Right? Now, by default, these GIFs don't actually cycle through. It just goes through once and that's it. So you have to come down here and say forever, because no good GIF really ever ends. There it is. I thought that was too good to be true, that it was the right size. All right, so now this will cycle on for eternity. And you have to decide how fast you want it to go to the next time. All right, so that is your animated GIF, and we can save it. I haven't saved it yet, shame on me. Save it to my desktop, because why not? And all right, so we've saved the GIF, but this is just a working file. This is what you can open up in Photoshop and just kind of work on it. This is not something that you take to the web. We have to save that as something. So we're going to go File. Actually, technically, we're exporting. Export. Save for web, parentheses, legacy. GIFs are old. They have been around forever. So, what are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at a very confusing set of options. What happens is it's compressing it for the web, and back in ye olde days of the web being very, very slow, you had to work really hard at, okay, if this was my original, this is what it looked like optimized, and you can see that, well, maybe not on the monitor, but it degrades a little bit. The highest amount of colors you can set it to is 256, which is, it'll tell you right here that you have less colors. So things always degrade a little bit. And you can also set whether there's dither or not, and a lot of these are technical terms for the quality of an image. And it's all aimed at trying to get the most bang for your buck in terms of what the image looks like. All right, so there are some presets here if you would like, but we want a GIF. We want to make sure it's a GIF file, and we're going to say save, and it's animatedgif.gif. That was silly on my part. So we do that, and what will have happened is, if I bring this over here, somewhere on my desktop is now the PSD file, which is the working file. It's where you go to make changes. And then there's this, which if I double click on it, opens in a browser, which for some reason is Internet Explorer. I don't know how that happened. And it takes a second to load, but once it does, it's going to play like an animated GIF that you could share on all of your social media platforms, however you choose. Troll people with them in a comment section, whatever you would like to do. But again, the reason I did a countdown is because Photoshop is great at single images, kind of in a sequence that is short. It's not that good for drawing. So when I say animated GIF, I don't mean animation. I mean something, like what you see online, where people put together silly animated GIFs to share with their friends. Low frame rate, not super sophisticated, but it gets the job done. All right, so up your social media game with animated GIFs.